Before we cross into the unknown, leave a hello in the comments. Even the smallest signal can ripple across galaxies, guiding fellow wanderers to this tale. Let me know you're out there. A voice among the stars, listening with me beyond the veil. Engines roared as the fleet tore through the void, leaving nothing but starlight and debris in their wake. Admiral Kale's hands gripped the console, knuckles white as alarms flashed across the bridge. "They've betrayed us," he muttered, eyes scanning the holographic map. Sensors detected dozens of enemy vessels converging on Outpost Sigma-7. Every allied species had evacuated, or surrendered. "Not us," Kyle whispered, a grim smile forming. Humanity would not bow. Not today. Outside the viewport, the enemy swarm drew closer, tendrils of plasma slicing the darkness. Kyle issued orders in a calm voice that belied the chaos, deploying drones with unpredictable maneuvers and using gravity well projectors in ways no manual prescribed. One human marine, Private Soren, remained on the surface, alone. He set charges and manipulated energy shields with artistry that seemed almost instinctual. By the time reinforcements arrived, Soren was already a myth, the one who wouldn't fall. The galaxy watched, stunned. The sensors lit up like a storm. Soren crouched behind twisted metal, counting every movement, every pulse of the enemy's energy shields. "If I survive this," he muttered to himself, "I'm rewriting the book." Alien rifles tore through the outpost corridors and Soren improvised, rerouting power to turrets, turning the station's defenses into a labyrinth of lethal traps. Every shot was a puzzle solved, every movement a gamble that might cost him his life. Above him, Kale's voice crackled over comms. "Hold your ground, Private. Reinforcements are inbound." Soren smiled grimly. He had held them off longer than any protocol suggested. With each wave, rumors spread through the enemy lines of a lone human who fought as though the universe itself was his ally. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a symbol. Humanity, for the first time in centuries, was a beacon, not a footnote. A shadow flitted across the holographic map. Kale narrowed his eyes. Intelligence had predicted a frontal assault, but this was different. The enemy split, feinting one way while striking from the other. He barked orders. "Divert shields to quadrants 4 and 7. Fire plasma interceptors." Engineers scurried, recalibrating weapons that pulsed with unnatural light. Humanity's tactics were chaotic, but effective, exploiting patterns the enemy didn't even know existed. On the surface, Soren lured attackers into collapsed corridors, using the wreckage like a predator in a forest. He whispered calculations under his breath as energy turrets whirred and fired. Each maneuver was an improvisation, each victory a story etched in sparks and smoke. When the enemy regrouped, they hesitated, sensing the intelligence behind a single human's choices. Kale watched from orbit, feeling a mixture of pride and awe. Humanity had rewritten the rules of engagement, one battle at a time. Messages crackled through interstellar channels, rumors of a human who refused to die, of tactics too unpredictable to anticipate. Allies who had fled the sector turned back, drawn by hope. "Is it true?" one admiral asked Kale. "One human?" Kale's fingers hovered over the console. "Not one. A representation of every human who's ever fought when surrender wasn't an option." The fleet's engines hummed, carrying not just weapons but the weight of expectation. Soren paused atop the shattered outpost tower, surveying the enemy lines. His comms lit up with urgent chatter. Reinforcements had jumped in system. For a brief moment, he allowed himself relief. The galaxy had already begun to see humans differently, not as mere allies, but as anchors of hope. And yet, the battle was far from over. Somewhere beyond the nearest star, a new threat stirred, sensing that humanity had become more than it appeared. Soren tightened his grip on his weapon, ready. Explosions lit the void like stars collapsing. Kale's fleet engaged the enemy head-on, plasma trails crossing and intertwining in a deadly ballet. Ships maneuvered with precision and improvisation, anticipating threats before they materialized. "This is more than strategy," Kale muttered. "This is instinct." The galaxy watched, stunned, as a coordinated force bent the rules of conventional warfare. Humanity's resolve was palpable, a tangible energy that rippled through the surrounding systems. On the ground, Soren disarmed a final wave of attackers using a combination of jury-rigged tech and sheer audacity. Energy shields flickered, turrets rotated, and laser blasts found their marks in impossible sequences. When the dust settled, the outpost was battered, but human. Kale's voice echoed in his earpiece. "Welcome back, Private. You've started something here." And in that moment, Soren understood. The legend was only beginning. Humanity would no longer be underestimated. Engines thrummed across the void as Kale's fleet held formation, scanning for remnants of the enemy. Sensor readings flickered, irregular signatures moving faster than any known technology. "They're adapting," Kale muttered, eyes narrowing. Tactical AI calculated probabilities, but even the algorithms hesitated. Humanity's edge was improvisation, intuition, and audacity. Fleet captains exchanged glances. A new lesson was unfolding before their eyes. On the planet below, Soren crept through the skeletal remains of the outpost, salvaging tech for analysis. Every console beeped with hidden data. Every terminal whispered secrets of enemy movement. He rigged sensors to anticipate ambushes, transforming a battered outpost into a nerve center. When enemy scouts appeared, Soren's devices triggered automated traps with uncanny precision. The galaxy whispered his name, the one who wouldn't fall. Kale convened a council in orbit, holograms of alien leaders flickering in tense silence. "They underestimated you," Kale said, directing his words to the human contingent. "And now they question whether they underestimated the rest of us." Suspicion hung like a shadow. Centuries of mistrust hadn't evaporated overnight, yet even skeptics could not ignore the evidence. Humans fought differently, and unpredictability was a weapon no AI could anticipate. Soren intercepted transmissions hinting at betrayal among allied species. One faction considered abandoning humanity's flank, fearing their audacity might trigger annihilation. Soren activated jamming devices, intercepting comms and feeding false maneuvers to the enemy. A single human became the keystone of interstellar strategy. Kale observed the data feed and exhaled slowly. Humans weren't just soldiers, they were catalysts. The galaxy was learning to follow their lead. A piercing signal shattered the quiet of deep space. Kale's bridge erupted into activity. "It's encrypted," the communications officer reported, "and it's unlike anything in our database." The holographic display shimmered, revealing a pulsating code. Kale leaned forward, intuition guiding him. "This isn't a message. It's a challenge." The enemy, or something older, had acknowledged humanity. The galaxy held its breath. Soren monitored local comms, analyzing the code through improvised algorithms. "This is deliberate," he murmured. His eyes traced patterns in the signal, revealing hidden coordinates. The pulse resonated through the planet's core, destabilizing the enemy's automated systems. A new mystery had emerged, one that required not just firepower, but ingenuity. Humanity was being drawn into something far larger than survival, and Soren felt the weight of the galaxy's gaze. Kale ordered the fleet into a tight formation, plasma cannons ready, shields humming with energy. Enemy vessels approached, expecting chaos, but met coordinated maneuvers that defied prediction. "Focus on their flanks," Kale commanded. Ships twisted and pivoted, exploiting gravitational anomalies and shield harmonics to devastating effect. The enemy faltered, their confidence shattered by a style of combat they could not anticipate. On the ground, Soren manipulated grav field projectors to launch debris like guided missiles. Every movement was a gamble. every trap a testament to improvisation. The enemy's advance stalled, then crumbled, forced into retreat by a single human's tactics. Kale watched the battle unfold, realizing that this was not just a victory, it was a demonstration. Humanity was no longer a participant in galactic warfare. They were its unpredictable force. Reports flooded in from every system. Humans had halted a coordinated strike that should have been unstoppable. Aliens whispered in fear and admiration. Kale's holoscreen filled with intercepted chatter. The humans, they cannot be defeated. They think differently. Humanity had become a standard against which all others measured courage and cunning. Soren surveyed the battlefield from a ruined observation tower, eyes scanning the horizon. "We've survived," he muttered, though instinct warned him this was only the beginning. The galaxy was watching, judging, and learning. Humanity's reputation as relentless improvisers, unyielding in the face of extinction, had spread. And somewhere, deep in the shadows beyond mapped space, an entity stirred, aware of a force it had never anticipated. Humanity's return was no longer a ripple. It was a rising tide. Kale's sensors detected a cluster of vessels moving at impossible speeds, avoiding detection through irregular warp signatures. "They're here," he whispered. Tactical officers scrambled, trying to calculate their trajectory. The fleet had faced waves of conventional enemies. But this was different. Humanity's instincts would be tested against something ancient, intelligent, and unseen. On the planet's surface, Soren adjusted the last of the outpost's energy relays. A tremor ran through the ground, subtle but deliberate. "They know we're here," he muttered, scanning the horizon. Automated defenses whirred to life, yet Soren knew brute force alone would not suffice. Every trap was a conversation with the unknown, every movement a question of timing and perception. Humanity's ingenuity would be the key. Encrypted signals pulsed through the fleet's network, riddled with anomalies. Kale leaned into the comms console. "It's a lure," he said slowly. "They want us to respond." AI scanners scrambled, searching for patterns, but the signals were layered, recursive, almost alive. Humanity thrived in uncertainty. Kale's gut told him this was an invitation to something greater, not a trap to be avoided. Soren intercepted transmissions on the ground, realizing the enemy's AI had begun communicating with their own in unfamiliar code. Using improvised hacking nodes, he fed false coordinates and distractions, bending the battlefield to his will. Each wave that approached was dissected and redirected. Every human maneuver became a ripple through the enemy's systems, revealing weaknesses they didn't know existed. The galaxy's perception of humanity shifted again. Alien commanders whispered of a human who acted beyond reason. Kale's fleet pivoted toward the new threat, anticipating maneuvers with precision and instinct. The enemy, cloaked in advanced stealth, revealed itself only in bursts of graviton distortion. "They're testing us," Kale said, eyes narrowed. "And we're responding with everything we've got." Soren, atop a shattered observation tower, triggered a series of gravitational anomalies that disoriented the approaching vessels. Explosions lit the night like artificial stars. Each trap was a question answered with science, timing, and intuition. The outpost had become a chessboard, and Soren, alone, was the grandmaster. Humanity's legend grew with every enemy retreat, every tactical improvisation that defied convention. Kale convened emergency talks with allied species whose trust had wavered. "We've seen what humans can do," he stated bluntly. "They're not just soldiers, they are a fulcrum. If we align, we can tip the scales against any enemy." Hesitation met his words, but his eyes shifted. Hope, long dormant, began to rekindle across star systems. Soren rigged a beacon atop the outpost's central spire, broadcasting a coordinated signal to nearby allies. Ships converged, guided by human ingenuity. Each pulse synchronized fleets across sectors, creating patterns in space the enemy could not predict. Kale observed the alignment from orbit, realizing humans were no longer a single force. They were the axis upon which the galaxy would turn. Sensors detected movement in uncharted space, shadows that defied known physics. Kale's fleet braced for contact. "Whatever this is," he murmured, "it's been watching us." The galaxy held its breath, witnessing a confrontation that transcended conventional warfare. Humanity's improvisation, their refusal to fall, was about to be tested on an entirely new scale. Soren crouched in the ruined outpost, eyes scanning the stars. His traps were ready, yet his mind raced with a strategy that no training could prepare him for. The pulse of an ancient intelligence reached him, resonating through the planet. One human stood alone, but the galaxy knew. It was enough. Humanity had returned, unpredictable, relentless, and already legendary. The tide was rising, and nothing beyond the stars would remain the same. Kale's fleet maneuvered through a nebula, sensors struggling against electromagnetic storms. "They're using the environment," he said, lips tight. Enemy vessels moved with precision, but the humans anticipated unpredictability, bending the rules of engagement. Plasma arcs lit the void as ships twisted in improvisational patterns. Each strike was calculated chaos, leaving opponents disoriented. On the ground, Soren rigged improvised grav tethers, hurling debris with uncanny accuracy. Alien patrols fell into traps that seemed preordained, yet entirely spontaneous. His mind raced, predicting enemy adaptations before they occurred. Every pulse of energy, every flash of fire, told a story of a human shaping battlefields with instinct rather than protocol. Humanity's legend deepened. Unidentified vessels loomed on the fleet's edge, cloaked and silent. Kale's voice was calm but tense. "They're watching. Study them, but don't engage until we understand." Tactical AIs ran simulations, yet none matched the patterns of these ghostly ships. The human edge, improvisation, became the fleet's secret advantage. Soren noticed irregular sensor spikes on the outpost's perimeter. "They're not attacking yet," he murmured. He set decoys and optical arrays, mapping unseen movements. Every action was a signal, a question answered with anticipation and guile. Humanity's presence had already altered the calculus of the enemy, turning observation into vulnerability. Holocom sessions buzzed with tension. Alien commanders debated strategies while Kale's fleet executed maneuvers with near-telepathic coordination. "Follow the humans' lead," Kale instructed. "Their choices defy conventional tactics. They create opportunities we cannot see until they're upon us." Across the galaxy, whispered messages spread about humans who fought as though intuition was a weapon. Soren rigged sensor pulses that tricked enemy AI into misaligning shields and redirecting firepower. Each move was both deception and precision, a duality that kept foes guessing. For a single human, the battlefield became a language of cause and effect, instinct and adaptation. Legends of the one who wouldn't fall reached systems light years away. Kale observed the enemy's fleet fracturing under pressure, divisions forming where unity had once existed. "They can't adapt fast enough," he noted. Humanity's unpredictability had introduced a new variable they could not compute. Fleets once feared now hesitated, while humans exploited hesitation with precision strikes, improvising traps in three-dimensional space. Soren intercepted communications between enemy officers, sowing doubt and feeding false intelligence. A single human altered entire campaigns, bending the flow of battle through ingenuity and daring. By the time reinforcements arrived, the outpost was operational again, a hub of resistance. Humanity's return was no longer subtle. It was a wave reshaping the galaxy's perception of strength and hope. Kale's fleet detected a massive energy pulse radiating from the outpost. "They've amplified the signal," he said, scanning readouts. Allies across multiple systems adjusted formations, guided by the human-engineered beacon. The pulse wasn't just communication. It was strategy, coordination, and inspiration rolled into one. Humanity's ingenuity now shaped entire fleets. Soren activated the beacon fully, sending synchronized pulses to Allied ships, turning their movements into a coordinated, living network. Enemy sensors scrambled, unable to parse the pattern. One human had become a nexus, an axis around which galactic strategy rotated. Kyle exhaled, realizing this was no longer about survival. It was about dominance through innovation, and the legend of humanity had grown immeasurably. Kale's sensors flickered with irregular readings from beyond mapped space. These signatures, they're structured, he muttered, eyes narrowing. The fleet's AI struggled to interpret them, patterns that predated known civilizations. Humanity's unpredictability became a tool against an intelligence that had observed countless species yet had never faced humans. Soren studied the energy distortions from the outpost, recognizing repeating sequences within the chaos. He rerouted power to amplifiers, translating the ancient signals into usable tactical data. Each pulse revealed enemy weaknesses, uncharted trajectories, and potential traps. One human's intuition was reshaping engagement rules, and the galaxy watched as humans turned mystery into weaponized knowledge. Enemy ships coalesced into a phantom fleet, cloaked in layers of invisibility. Kale barked orders, deploying countermeasures that relied on improvisation over protocol. "They're testing our limits," he said. Plasma trails and gravitational distortions revealed glimpses of the enemy's path, but chaos was their ally, not their enemy. Soren manipulated local energy fields, forcing cloaked vessels into predictable corridors. Explosions blossomed like fireworks as trapped enemies were shredded. Each movement was precise, yet unpredictable, creating a ballet of destruction that defied conventional strategies. Humanity's tactics had become the standard by which the galaxy judged ingenuity and courage. Allied fleets began to coordinate using Soren's beacon. Kale watched holographic projections ripple across multiple star systems, realizing humans were the nexus, the central axis around which strategy rotated. Alien commanders hesitated, following patterns they had never conceived. Humanity's improvisation became the connective tissue of a galactic coalition. Soren calibrated secondary pulses, integrating movement data from Allied ships into a unified lattice of control. Enemy attempts at disruption failed repeatedly. Every maneuver reinforced the legend. One human could bend entire fleets through intellect and audacity. Across the galaxy, whispers of the one who wouldn't fall grew louder, igniting hope where despair had once reigned. Unseen observers reacted to the amplified signals, deploying probes that flickered in and out of existence. Kale's fleet held formation, wary of traps designed to exploit fear. "They've studied civilizations for millennia," he said, "and they haven't learned what humans can do." Improvisation became a shield, unpredictability a weapon. Soren analyzed interference patterns, predicting enemy probe trajectories before detection. Using improvised hacking nodes, he turned the enemy's tools against them. Energy pulses redirected, weapons misfired, and ships staggered in confusion. Humanity had transformed observation into vulnerability, instinct into strategy, and one human into a legend across multiple star systems. Kale surveyed the remnants of the enemy fleet, fractured and retreating. "This is only the beginning," he said. Each destroyed vessel told a story of unpredictability and courage, of tactics born from intuition rather than instruction. Humanity had rewritten the rules of engagement. Soren stood atop the outpost, surveying the stars now quiet after battle. The planet was scarred, yet alive. Reports from allies confirmed the shift. Humans were no longer mere participants. They were anchors of hope, fulcrums of strategy, catalysts for resistance. Somewhere in the void, unseen eyes observed, realizing that humanity's return had changed the galaxy irreversibly. Kale's sensors flared with a signal unlike any before, immense, intelligent, deliberate. "It's observing us," he whispered. Fleets held position, engines humming with anticipation. Humanity's improvisation had drawn the attention of something ancient, something that had watched entire civilizations rise and fall. Soren traced the energy patterns on the outpost, feeling resonance unlike any weapon or natural phenomenon. The pulse suggested awareness, strategy, and intent. He rerouted the outpost's amplifiers to respond, improvising a dialogue of energy and signal. One human was now communicating with a force that had outlasted galaxies, bending instinct into a conversation with the unknown. Kale convened the fleet, projecting star maps laced with probability trajectories. "We cannot fight blindly," he said. Every maneuver relied on humans anticipating enemy adaptation, exploiting weaknesses others couldn't see. Improvisation, intuition, and audacity became the new standard for interstellar strategy. Soren deployed mobile sensor drones across the planet, each acting independently yet responding as part of a greater pattern. Enemy forces struggled to anticipate, miscalculating every strike. One human was converting chaos into structure, turning raw ingenuity into a tactical lattice. The galaxy began to see that unpredictability could be weaponized, and humanity had mastered it. Enemy remnants retreated toward uncharted space, their cloaking devices flickering under Kale's relentless probes. "They're regrouping," he said, "and they're bringing something new." Human-led formations anticipated flanking maneuvers, bending conventional physics with improvisational precision. Every engagement was a calculated gamble, every victory a demonstration of instinctual genius. Soren activated a series of gravitational distortions, forcing enemy scouts into pre-programmed kill zones. Lasers streaked across the sky like meteors, detonations echoing in vacuum chambers. One human had become a master of battlefield geometry, turning environmental hazards into lethal weapons. Legends spread. The one who wouldn't fall was no longer myth, but reality. The ancient intelligence finally made itself known. A massive energy construct appeared at the edge of the system. Kale's fleet froze, engines humming. "It's immense," whispered an officer. The construct pulsed, patterns repeating in ways that suggested cognition. Humanity's unpredictability had caught its attention, and it was curious. Soren adjusted the outpost's amplifiers, synchronizing with the construct's pulses. He felt patterns, subtle cues in energy fluctuations, and improvised a counter-response. One human was initiating dialogue without words, using technology and instinct as a language. The galaxy watched as humanity became not just a warrior, but a negotiator, a force recognized by an intelligence that had transcended civilizations. News spread across allied systems. Humanity had survived every assault, turned chaos into strategy, and now engaged an ancient intelligence. Kale's fleet maintained orbit, wary yet confident. The legend of one human had multiplied into the legend of a species capable of reshaping entire star systems with audacity and ingenuity. Soren gazed at the energy construct, amplifiers humming in perfect resonance. He realized the battle was no longer just survival. It was proof of humanity's ingenuity. Every pulse, every maneuver, every improvisation had proven one undeniable truth. Humans did not just fight, they inspired, altered, and anchored hope. And the galaxy, for the first time in millennia, paid attention. Kale's sensors registered waves of energy radiating from the construct, each pulse more complex than the last. "It's probing us," he muttered. Fleet formations shifted instinctively, anticipating reactions that could not be predicted by conventional algorithms. Humanity's improvisation had become the galaxy's adaptive standard. Soren tuned the outpost's amplifiers to match the construct's rhythm. Each pulse became a question, and his counterpulse an answer. Enemy ships attempted to interfere, but the energy feedback disrupted their systems. One human, alone on a ruined outpost, was orchestrating a dialogue that could redefine interstellar warfare. Enemy factions hesitated as Kale's fleet executed maneuvers no AI could simulate. Flanking attacks were countered with improvisation, cloaked ships trapped in unforeseen corridors. "Their coordination is collapsing," Kale said. Humanity's unpredictability shattered centuries of calculated enemy strategy. Soren lured enemy drones into gravity wells, detonating their hulls with precise timing. Each improvisation altered the battlefield, creating opportunities for allied forces. The outpost had become a command nexus, a single human converting chaos into a networked advantage. The legend of the one who wouldn't fall spread system-wide, and the galaxy reeled in admiration. A new pulse resonated, distinct from attacks or probes. Kale realized the construct was communicating, its energy patterns forming syntax beyond known physics. "It's aware," he whispered. Fleet AI attempted translation, but intuition, human intuition, was the only key. Soren adapted the outpost's relay to mimic the construct's pattern. Energy flows became conversation. Questions met answers, signals met countersignals. One human was negotiating through resonance and improvisation, turning the battlefield into a dialogue. Humanity was no longer just a military force, it was a bridge to the unknown. Kale coordinated fleet and allies, maintaining formation while monitoring construct responses. "It's testing our intent," he said. Each energy pulse was analyzed and countered with instinctual precision. Humanity's adaptability became the template for negotiation and strategy simultaneously. Soren amplified synchronized pulses across the outpost and fleet. Slowly, the construct's aggressive pulses diminished, replaced by patterns suggesting curiosity and tentative alignment. One human had initiated the galaxy's first contact with an intelligence older than recorded history, a testament to improvisation, courage, and intellect. Kale's fleet adjusted to the new reality. The ancient construct was no longer an adversary but a variable in a larger equation. Allied commanders, once skeptical of human tactics, now mirrored improvisational strategies. Humanity had rewritten the rules of engagement across star systems. Soren stood atop the outpost, observing the construct pulsate in resonance with human amplifiers. Every calculation, every improvised tactic had led to this moment. Humans were not merely survivors. They were the galaxy's anchor, its unpredictable fulcrum, the embodiment of hope. And somewhere deep in the void, countless eyes watched, acknowledging a force they could never fully anticipate. Kale's fleet moved through neighboring star systems, trailing energy pulses that mapped the construct's intentions. Alien allies followed, some skeptical, others awestruck. Humanity's improvisation became the template, a strategy no AI could replicate. Every maneuver sent ripples across uncharted space. Soren adjusted relay amplifiers, extending the pulse network into nearby systems. Each synchronized signal created a web of information, turning isolated fleets into coordinated nodes. Enemy factions struggled to comprehend, their algorithms failing against a single human's ingenuity. Humanity's influence spread, reshaping tactics and perceptions in every corner of the galaxy. Fragments of the enemy fleet regrouped beyond known space, cloaked and cautious. Kyle observed their hesitant movements. "They've learned the human variable," he said grimly, "and they fear it." Humanity's unpredictability had not just defended. It had disrupted centuries of calculated aggression. Soren set traps in orbital debris fields, turning the environment into a weapon. Enemy drones triggered false signals, collided with gravitational anomalies, and were shredded before they realized it. One human had transformed terrain, technology, and timing into a weapon. Legends of the one who wouldn't fall became the anchor for coordinated resistance across multiple systems. Sensors detected massive structures emerging from the void, remnants of an ancient civilization, long thought extinct. Kale's fleet held formation, unsure whether they were a threat or an opportunity. Humanity's role was no longer tactical alone. It was exploratory, inquisitive, and necessary. Soren analyzed the energy signatures, discovering mechanisms that could be repurposed as defensive amplifiers. Improvised calculations, combined with instinct, allowed him to interface with ancient technology. One human was unlocking secrets millennia ahead of other species, shaping the battlefield and diplomacy simultaneously. The galaxy watched, learning from each innovation. Kale deployed fleets in complex improvisational patterns around the ancient structures. Enemy scouts were ensnared by unpredictability, ships collapsing into traps engineered moments before engagement. Humanity's improvisation dictated outcomes where probability alone could not. Soren activated modified ancient relays, creating energy corridors that guided allies and disrupted foes. The outpost became a hub of technological creativity and battlefield dominance. One human's decisions now rippled across fleets, systems, and civilizations. Legends grew, not merely for survival but for ingenuity, for bending reality to instinct and intellect. Kale's holographic displays tracked synchronized fleet maneuvers. "The galaxy is learning to follow humans," he noted. Strategies that once relied on rigid formation now mirrored improvisation, unpredictability, and creative adaptation. Humanity was no longer just a participant. It was a standard. Soren surveyed the outpost from its highest tower, energy amplifiers pulsing in resonance with fleet formations. Enemy remnants retreated, allies aligned, and the ancient construct observed. One human had become the axis around which hope, strategy, and ingenuity turned. Humanity's return was no longer subtle. It was a force shaping the future of entire star systems. Kale's fleet detected a hidden armada emerging from a nearby nebula, silent, precise, and deadly. "They've been waiting," he muttered. Fleet AI calculated evasive maneuvers, but instinct and improvisation would be the decisive factor. Humanity's unpredictability was about to face its sternest test. Soren deployed improvised decoys and energy traps on the outpost's perimeter. Shadows of enemy vessels appeared on sensors, only to collide with gravitic anomalies or trigger cascading plasma bursts. One human had transformed anticipation into preemptive control, bending enemy tactics into chaos. The legend of the one who wouldn't fall became unstoppable. Kale traced enemy formations, noting irregularities they did not intend to reveal. "They underestimate improvisation," he said. His fleet twisted in three-dimensional patterns, confusing targeting systems and AI. Humanity had made chaos a strategic weapon. Soren manipulated orbital debris and residual energy fields to create lethal corridors. Enemy drones miscalculated every approach. One human's improvisation became a symphony of destruction, turning the raw environment into a tactical advantage. Across multiple star systems, the galaxy witnessed that humans fought differently, unpredictably, adaptively, and with genius in instinct. Kale's fleet orbited a massive structure left by the ancient intelligence. Its energy signature pulsed in patterns suggesting cognition. "This is no weapon," Kale whispered. "It's a mind." Humanity's improvisation had reached beyond combat. It had become communication, exploration, and adaptation in one. Soren interfaced with the construct through amplified energy pulses. Every calculation was instinctual, every relay a question answered. One human had become a translator between civilizations, technologies, and intelligences. The galaxy watched as improvisation evolved into understanding, bridging millennia of knowledge in real time. Enemy forces launched a massive, coordinated assault, testing human-led fleets across multiple sectors. Kale's voice rang through the command channel. "Follow the unpredictable, improvise, adapt." Plasma arcs and shield harmonics intertwined in patterns no AI could compute. Humanity led through instinct, turning the tide before it began. Soren activated the outpost's full defense matrix, integrating ancient tech and improvised designs. Energy corridors guided Allied ships while enemy attacks were redirected into calculated traps. One human was rewriting the battlefield in real time. The galaxy understood. Survival alone was no longer the goal. Mastery through ingenuity was. Kale observed shattered enemy formations retreating across multiple systems. "We've changed the game," he said. Aliens whispered of humans who fought like no other species, combining instinct, improvisation, and intelligence in ways that redefined warfare itself. Soren stood amidst the outpost's ruins, amplifiers still pulsing. He realized the galaxy now looked to humans not for numbers or firepower, but for brilliance and courage. One human had sparked a legend, and that spark ignited hope in every system. Humanity was no longer merely present. It was essential, unpredictable, and eternal in influence. Kale's fleet surged forward, energy pulses synchronized across Allied systems. Enemy fleets, once confident, faltered against tactics that combined instinct, improvisation, and coordination. Humanity's unpredictability had become a contagion, reshaping every engagement. Soren deployed orbital amplifiers that bent enemy sensors and weapons. Every trap was adaptive, every maneuver instinct-driven. One human had transformed chaos into a lattice of controlled destruction. Across the galaxy, systems whispered of humans who fought not for victory alone, but to redefine the rules themselves. The construct pulsed violently, sending waves of energy that threatened fleets and outposts alike. Kale's sensors struggled to parse its intent. "It's testing us," he said. Human-led improvisation would be the key to survival and understanding. Soren adjusted energy relays, translating destructive pulses into a dialogue. Enemy ships, caught in feedback loops, misfired repeatedly. One human, improvising in real time, became a bridge between civilizations and an intelligence older than stars. Humanity was no longer merely fighting. It was negotiating through action. Kale's fleet coordinated with allied species, their maneuvers forming patterns that mirrored human improvisation. Enemy forces converged, attempting to crush the alliance, but were funneled into traps and miscalculations. Humanity had become the galaxy's pivot. Soren activated the final stage of the outpost's amplifiers, creating synchronized energy corridors. Enemy vessels became constrained by geometry and timing they could not predict. One human had orchestrated entire fleets as instruments of precision and strategy. Legends were no longer whispered. They were witnessed. Kale's fleet braced as the construct emitted a blinding wave of energy. Shields strained, engines groaned, and every system ran at peak output. "Hold formation," Kale commanded. Improvisation, coordination, and instinct became the defense. Soren synchronized the outpost's pulses with fleet movements, transforming the energy wave into a force that neutralized the construct's aggression. One human had turned potential annihilation into a demonstration of ingenuity. Across star systems, fleets observed a new standard of warfare: adaptive, unpredictable, and brilliant. The enemy retreated, shattered, and disoriented. Kale's fleet held victorious positions, energy readings stabilizing across sectors. The construct remained, but its pulses were now tempered, curious, almost cooperative. Humanity had survived, and more than survived. They had redefined engagement. Soren looked over the outpost, amplifiers still humming in perfect resonance. One human had inspired hope, ingenuity, and unity. The galaxy now understood humans were anchors of strategy, unpredictability, and resilience. Legends were no longer stories. They were reality. Humanity's return had changed everything. Kale surveyed the aftermath across multiple systems. Debris fields drifted in silent testimony to the battles fought. Allied commanders shared wary respect. Enemy remnants whispered of humans who turned chaos into precision. Humanity's unpredictability had become the benchmark for strategy and courage. Soren monitored the outpost's residual energy pulses. Even in silence, patterns of intelligence echoed through the constructs. Improvised data networks hummed, capturing lessons from battle. One human had transformed ruin into insight, inspiring hope and strategy for every allied species in the galaxy. Kale convened a council with allied species, projecting holographic maps of newly stabilized systems. Humans have proven adaptability is as crucial as firepower, he declared. Skeptics nodded, acknowledging a new standard. Instinct, improvisation, and courage could tip the scales of any conflict. Soren transmitted real-time energy readings from the outpost to the council. Ancient constructs and alien technologies aligned with human improvisation, creating a network of tactical advantage. One human had become the focal point of a galaxy-wide strategy, blending diplomacy, technology, and ingenuity into a single force. Beyond mapped sectors, sensors detected residual enemy factions reorganizing in secret. Kale's fleet shifted, ready for new threats. Humanity's unpredictability had become its most feared weapon. No AI or alien fleet could fully anticipate the next move. Soren adjusted energy relays to extend surveillance, creating traps and feedback loops for unseen threats. One human now dictates responses across systems, turning preparation into preemption. Legends of the one who wouldn't fall became guides for those who followed, inspiring courage where despair had lingered. The construct pulsed with renewed energy, patterns now complex, deliberate, almost communicative. Kyle realized it was testing humanity once more. "They're learning," he whispered. Human improvisation would be the key to deciphering its intent and preventing conflict. Soren synchronized amplifiers with fleet movements, creating a harmonic resonance with the construct's pulse. Each adjustment became a conversation, each improvisation a translation. One human was conversing with intelligence older than civilizations, redefining interaction between species, technology, and consciousness. Kale coordinated fleet and allies in perfect improvisational harmony, anticipating enemy remnants and construct behavior alike. Humanity had become the axis of galactic strategy, turning instinct into precision and uncertainty into opportunity. Soren monitored energy flows, guiding pulses across fleets, systems, and constructs. One human had orchestrated the alignment of civilizations, technology, and ancient intelligence. The galaxy now moved in rhythm with humans, witnessing a species whose ingenuity and courage had altered the course of history. Kale's fleet faced the last enemy remnants, hidden in a web of uncharted space. "This is it," he said, voice calm but firm. Every maneuver relied on improvisation, instinct, and centuries of learned strategy. Humanity had turned uncertainty into the ultimate weapon. Soren triggered the outpost's final array, synchronizing with fleet movements. Energy pulses created corridors that trapped enemy ships before they could strike. One human had transformed raw environment, advanced technology, and sheer audacity into a decisive force. The galaxy watched as legends became reality. The ancient construct pulsed brighter than ever, patterns forming what Kale recognized as an intelligence evaluating intent. It tested fleets, probing humans' adaptability and ingenuity. Humanity's response, unpredictable, precise, and creative, was the only variable it could not control. Soren mirrored the construct's pulses with amplified networks, improvising a dialogue that merged strategy with communication. One human had become a bridge between civilizations and a force older than galaxies. The construct, for the first time, hesitated, acknowledging humanity's power not through destruction, but respect. Enemy remnants scattered, fleets stabilized, and Kale's sensors recorded silence where chaos had reigned. "We've done more than survive," he said. "We've set a new standard." Across star systems, humanity's name echoed with awe and reverence. Soren watched the outpost hum with synchronized energy pulses. Every maneuver, trap, and improvisation had shifted the balance across multiple civilizations. One human had become a symbol, a beacon of ingenuity and courage. The galaxy now understood the true power of unpredictability and intellect. Kale convened allied leaders, outlining coordinated defense and exploration strategies. Humans have shown us how to adapt, improvise, and lead, he said. Civilization now revolved around a new standard: instinct, ingenuity, and courage over mere numbers. Soren transmitted the outpost's energy harmonics to allies across sectors. Humans had become the axis around which galactic strategy, diplomacy, and hope revolved. Legends were no longer stories. They were reality, lived and witnessed by every corner of the galaxy. Kale observed fleets in perfect synchrony, moving with improvisation and precision. Humanity's legacy had been cemented across the galaxy, a species that fought, adapted, and inspired beyond measure. The construct pulsed one final time in acknowledgement, as if bowing to ingenuity and courage. Soren stood atop the outpost, energy amplifiers resonating in harmony with fleets and civilizations alike. One human had sparked legends, anchored hope, and rewritten what it meant to survive and thrive. Humanity had returned, not as allies, but as the fulcrum of the galaxy, and its story, unpredictable, relentless, eternal, would never be forgotten. The end. Thank you for watching AstroMyths. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic sci-fi tales, cosmic mysteries, and mind-bending myths. And if you like this story, or have a myth, mystery, or galaxy you'd like us to explore, drop your ideas in the comments. We're always listening. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your mind open to the unknown.